The first exercise, find the equation with the given roots. So we have to use the formula that's on your book. X squared is sx minus plus p is equal to 0, or the second method that we learned was all quadratic equations have their second form like this. So you can express all quadratic equations are x minus the first root times x minus the second root. We will stick to the first method for these exercises. So s would be the sum of the roots. For us it's going to be minus 1 plus 1, that's 0, and p would be the product, negative 1 times 1, that's negative 1. So finally the equation would look like x squared minus 0x plus negative 1, that's 0. So x squared minus 1 is 0. Under b, the sum is 1 over 2 plus 3 over 2, that's 4 over 2, which is 2, and the product is 1 over 2 times 3 over 2, that's 3 over 4. Again, substitute to this form of the equation. We'll leave that to you. Under C, the sum is 0 plus 4, 4. The product is 0 times 4, 0. Substitute to this form of the equation, done. Under D, the sum is 2 plus root 2 plus 2 minus root 2. This and this cancels out, so you get the sum is 4. And for the product, you get 2 plus root 2, 2 minus root 2. This is the case a plus b times a minus b, so it's going to be 2 squared minus root 2 squared. That's 4 minus 2. 2, again substitute s and p. Under e, we get the sum is root 3 minus root 2 plus root 3 plus root 2. Cancel, cancel, you get 2 root 3. Under p, the product, is root 3 minus root 2 times root 3 plus root 2. Again, use a squared minus b squared, so it's going to be root 3 squared minus root 2 squared, that's 1. And under f, the sum is 1 over p squared plus 1 over q squared. You can multiply the denominator here by q squared and here by p squared. And finally, what do you get? You get q squared plus p squared over p squared q squared, the sum. As for the product, it's easier because we just multiply numerator by numerator 1, denominator by denominator. To get these sums and products, substitute to the given formula here, and that would be it. The second exercise, find the quadratic equation whose sum of the roots is negative 2 and the product of the roots is 5. Here actually the sum is given to be negative 2 and the product is given to be 5. So just substitute x squared minus negative 2x plus 5 is 0. X squared plus 2x plus 5 is 0. The roots of the equation, this one, are x1 and x2. Find the equation whose roots are x3 and x4 such that. Alright, so we have to find the sum of x3 plus x4. By the way, it's given. x3 is 2x1 and x4 is 2x2. That means the sum is 2x1 plus x2. Well, we can find the sum using Vieta's formulas. So from here we know that x1 plus x2 is minus b over a. That means it's minus b, it's negative 4 over 1, that's 4. So it's 2 times 4, 8. As for the product, we get x3 times x4, that's 2x1 times 2x2. 2 times 2, that's 4x1 times x2. How can we get x1 and x2? Again, from Vieta's formula. x1 times x2 is c over a for the given equation here. So that's negative 3 over 1. That is negative 3. So 4 times negative 3. That's negative 12. Substitute to the equation, x squared minus the sum, 8x, plus the product, negative 12. That's it. Find the equation whose roots are 2 less than the roots of the equation. So we can write like, let x1 and x2 be roots of the given equation. We can divide also by 2. X minus 3x plus 29 is equal to 0. So what does that mean? The roots that we are looking for, x3, would be x1 minus 2, and x4 would be x2 minus 2, because it says 2 less. Alright, so we have to find the sum, which is x1 minus 2, that's right, x3 plus x4, and now x3 is x1 minus 2, plus x4 is x2 minus 2. x1 plus x2 minus 4. Now x1 plus x2, you can get it from Vieta's theorem. So what do you get here? Let's write it somewhere here. x1 plus x2 from Vieta's theorem, we can apply directly here. Of course, we can apply from the equation here as well, but this one is simpler because we divided by 2. It's minus b over a, negative minus 3 over 1. That's just 3. And the second Vieta's formula was x1 times x2, which is c over a. For us, it's 29 over 1. That's just 29. All right, get these values and substitute here. That's 3 minus 4, negative 1. And the product would be x3 times x4, which is x1 minus 2, x2 minus 2. That makes x1 times x2 minus 2x1 minus 2x2 plus 4, just multiplying here. So x1 times x2, you can get it from Vieta's theorem, that's 29. We can factor a negative 2 here, so we get the sum x1 plus x2 as in the brackets, plus 4. Now, that's 29 minus 2 times 3 plus 4. Negative 6 and 4, negative 2, 27. So the equation is x squared minus the sum, negative 1, so that makes plus 1x, just plus x, plus 27 is 0. This exercise we will be covering 1 or 2 cases. The rest you can try. So the roots of the given equation are x1 and x2. Write a new equation whose roots are similar. We just solved a similar exercise for a and b. Let's try maybe for c. So again, we can divide the equation by 3 just to make the numbers smaller and easier to work with. So the equation can be written like this after you divide by 2. 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. All right, so we have to find the sum, which is x1 minus x2, x1 minus x2, plus, let's write it from x3 here, x3 plus x4. That is x1 minus x2 plus x2 minus x1. Well, this and this cancels out, this and this cancels out, so the sum is 0. And the product, well, the product is x3 times x4. That means x1 minus x2 times x2 minus x1. Right, we can multiply here x1 times x2, that's x1 x2. Actually, we could have factorized the -1 and you get the same expression, but also we can just multiply them. Minus x1 squared minus x2 squared plus x1 x2. Now x1 times x2 is the product. So from Vieta's theorem, we can figure out that x1 times x2 is actually negative, c over a. For us, c is -2 over 2. That makes -1. And the sum x1 plus x2 is negative b over a. For us, it's -3 over 2. That makes it just 3 over 2. All right. Let's continue. x1, x2 plus x1, x2, that's 2x1, x2, minus in brackets x1 squared plus x2 squared. Well, here you can use the formula for x1 squared plus x2 squared that's on your book, or otherwise we can try to write it as the sum of the squares. So you can try this one, continue with the formula from the book. On the other hand, I will continue solving it in method 2 by trying to write it as x1 squared plus x1 plus x2 whole squared. Well, after I got to this step here, method 2, I would practically get a negative equals a negative sign in front, and I get x1 squared plus x2 squared. Well, in order to complete the square, I can write 2x1 x2, but the moment I add this 2x1 x2, I of course need to subtract that. So minus 2x1 x2, and I just use this part. Now I need to copy x1. I need to copy x1 x2 two times. Great. So now what do I have? This part is completing the square. So it's x1 plus x2 all squared, and negative times negative, that's plus 2x1 x2, and again 2x1 x2 from here. So 2x1 x2. That means it's negative the sum x1 plus x2 all squared plus 4x1 x2. That means it's negative. The sum is 3 over 2 squared plus 4. The product is -1. Well, finally, it's -9 over 4 minus 4. That's 16 and 9, 25, -25 over 4. If you solve it in a different way here by using the formula from the book for x squared plus 2 squared, you should get the same answer. All right. Let's solve also under f in a parametric way. So we get x3, x4. So again, just the same as like previously, I have to find the sum of x3 plus x4. Well, x3 is 2x1 minus x2, and x4 is 2x2 minus x1. We have like terms, so just perform the operations. 2x1 minus x1, it's just x1 plus x2. Oh, it's the same like here. So from Vieta's formulas, what do we have? We have x1 plus x2 would be minus b over a minus 2m over m. Cancel, cancel. Sorry, minus negative 2m. So negative, negative will make it positive, so just 2. And x1 times x2 would be c over a. That's -1 over m. So in our case here, x1 plus x2, we found it is just 2. And the product, well, the product would be x3 times x4. That makes 2x1 minus x2 times 2x2 minus x1, multiply here and let's see what do we get. 2x1 times 2x2, that's 2x1 x2, minus 2x1 squared, minus 2x2 squared, plus x1 x2. So we get 3x1 x2 minus 2x1 squared x2 squared. Get the substitution for the product here, which will be minus 3 times negative 1 over m minus 2 times the formula for x1 squared plus x2 squared. We can use just like we did previously. Well, I can write it as x1 plus x2 all squared minus 2x1 x2. That's negative 3 over m minus 2 times the sum is 2 squared minus 2 times the product is negative 1 over m. So it's negative 1 minus 2, 4 plus 2 over m. Yeah, this one was m here. It's not 3, so let's fix it. It's m, so minus 3 over m. Again, negative 3 over m minus 8 minus 4 over m. That means negative 7 over m minus 8. Hopefully there are no calculation mistakes. Now you get the sum, which is 2, and get the product, which is negative 7 over m minus 8. Substitute to the formula that we used previously. The roots of the equation, this one, are 2 more than the roots of the equation. Alright, let's say the roots here are x1, x2. What does that mean? That means x3, which is a root here, would be, if the roots of the equation here are 2 more, that means x3 would be 2 less. So it would be x1 minus 2. And x4 would be the other root, x2 minus 2. So, from Vieta's theorem, what do we know? We know that x1 plus x2 is minus b, it's negative k over a, that's 1, so it's k. And x1 times x2 will be c, which is this whole part, negative 3k plus 1 over 1, that's negative 3k plus 1. Alright, we can get the same correlation for x3 plus x4. Alright, x3 plus x4, that would be from the second equation using just Vieta's theorem. You get minus b, which is negative k minus 4 over a, which is 1. So it's just k minus 4. And x3 plus x4 is, well, c over a, that's negative 4k over 1. That's negative 4k. And here it's not plus, it's times. So if we try to find the sum of x3 plus x4 here, you will practically get x1 minus 2 plus x2 minus 2, which will be x1 plus x2 minus 4, and x1 plus x2, it's k minus 4. Well, it's just the sum that we already got, so we cannot form an equation here. No information was given. Let's try the product. So the product is x3 times x4. Now x3, it's x1 minus 2 times x2 minus 2. Multiplying here x1 times x2 minus 2 x1 minus 2 x2 plus 4, we get x1 times x2 is actually negative 3k plus 1, I got it from here. And minus 2 and the sum x1 plus x2 plus 4. That's negative 3k plus 1 minus 2 times the product, that's k plus 4. So we get minus 5k plus 5. All right, this is the product, but we also know that the product should also be equal to this number. So we get minus 5k plus 5 should be minus 4k. That means if you add 5k to both sides, you get k is 5. Find three consecutive integers a, b, c such that, well, if these are consecutive integers, then there is a property. If the first one is a, the second one would be a plus 1, and the third one would be a plus 2. Get these numbers, substitute here, and let's see what we get. It would have been better if we get this substitution, like a is b minus 1 and c is b plus 1. You will get better calculations, easier to work with, but you can try that one on your own. So a squared plus a plus 1 squared plus a plus 2 squared is 110. That means a squared plus 2a plus 1 plus a squared plus 4a plus 4, it's 110. You get 3a squares, 2a and 4a, that's 6a, 1 and 4, that's 5, is 110. Let's subtract also 110. You'll get this is 0. So 3a squared plus 6a minus 95 is 0. Now this is a quadratic equation. You can just apply the quadratic formula or use factorization, and you should be ready to solve it. Otherwise, we could have applied this second formula. The calculations would have been a bit easier. Find a number. So there is a number that we don't know. Let's label it x. That is 3 more than twice its root. So the number x is 3 more than twice its root. Well, if you just square here, you'll see that you will get again a root, because you're not squaring each term one by one, you're squaring them side by side. So x squared, x, it would be better to just subtract 3 first. So x minus 3 is going to be 4. It's going to be 2 root x. Then you square both sides and you get x minus 3 all squared. That's 4 root of x squared, because 2 squared is, we have to put these brackets here. So x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 4x. That means it's x squared. Negative 6 and 4, that's negative 10x plus 9, it's 0. Again, this is a quadratic equation. Use the formula or factorization. A swimming pool can be filled by 2 pipes together in 6 hours. So there are 2 pipes. They should have, most probably they have different speeds in filling this pool. If the larger pipe alone takes 5 hours less than the smaller pipe alone to fill the pool, find the time in which each pipe can fill the pool alone. All right, let's say the first pipe fills it in x hours, the second one in y hours. All right. So if the larger pipe alone takes 5 hours less, let's say x is the larger pipe, that means x would fill it in y minus 5 hours. So it takes 5 hours less than the pipe alone. Find the time in which each pipe would fill. So together, if they work, they would fill it in 6 hours. We need to change the point of view in the exercise, not for how long it will take to fill the pool, but we can just count it in 1 hour what part of the pool would be filled. Well, in 1 hour, the first pipe will fill 1 over x of the pool, and the second pipe will fill 1 over y of the pool, and that will finish 1 over 6 of the job. Great, so here we got that x is y over 5. If just in case you want to work with x's and not y's, you can write here that y is x plus 5. It's x plus 5, and continue the same way. So 1 over x plus 1 over x plus 5 is 1 over 6. Now this is a quadratic equation, but we have to bring it to the quadratic form because now it's not that clear. If you multiply both sides by x times 5, x plus 5 times 6, you will get rid of all the denominators. Or in another way, you can first add the left side. Let's see here. We have a common denominator x plus 5. Here the denominator is x plus 5 plus x. On the left side is just 1 over x. So we get 2x plus 5 over x squared plus 5. That's 1 over 6. Cross multiply, you get 6 times 2x plus 5 equals x squared plus 5. So finally we get 12x plus 30, it's x squared plus 5, and finally x squared minus 12x minus 25 is 0. This is a quadratic equation. You can solve it. Of course, at the end we need to check whether the numbers make sense. So negative numbers are not allowed because you cannot fill the pool without starting to fill it. Alex can do a job in 1 hour less than Jane. Let's say Alex does it in X hours, Jane in Y hours. That means Alex's time is Y minus 1. If Alex and Jane work together, the job takes 6 over 5 hours. How long will it take each person working alone? Well, just like the previous exercise, in 1 hour, Alex would do 1 over x of the job, and Jane would do 1 over y of the job. And in 1 hour, they would do 1 over how long would it take to finish the job? That's 6 over 5. Well, here again, if you want to work with x instead of its y, you just write y is x plus 1, and you get 1 over x plus 1 over x plus 1 is 5 over 6. This is just like the previous exercise. You can continue it. It's a quadratic equation. Again, negative numbers are not allowed. A man completed a job for $156. It took him 7 hours longer than he expected, and so he earned $14 less an hour than he anticipated. All right, how do you first calculate the amount of money you charge people when you do a job? Well, how long did it take? So hours times the rate, how much money you get per hour. So that means how many hours you work times the rate per hour, that's $156. So this was what he expected. But now it took him 7 hours longer, so he didn't finish in 8 hours, he finished it in 8 plus 7 hours. But in meantime, the pay rate decreased by 14. So all R minus 14. And of course the payment would be the same. Now that we got an equation from here, well, the rest would be easy. So for example, R would be 156 over age. Get this R, substitute on the second equation, and what do you get? Age plus 7 times, instead of R, 156 over age minus 14, that should be 156. This is practically a quadratic equation, and we can multiply here the brackets, and let's see what do you get. So h plus 7, and here this now is h, the common denominator h here. 156 minus 14h is equal 156. If you want to get rid of the denominator, that's h, and you get h plus 7. 156 minus 14h equals 156h. 100, and if you multiply here h times 156, you get 156 h minus 14h squared plus 156 times 7 minus 7 times 14 should be 98 h, that's 156h. 156h and 156h cancels out. You get negative 14h squared minus 98h plus 156 times 7 is equal to h. We can multiply by negative 1 and try to divide by. All right, first let's multiply by negative 1. You get 14h squared minus 98h plus 156 times 7 is 0. We can divide by 7, and we get 2h squared minus 14h plus 156 is 0. We can also divide by 2. That means h squared minus 7h plus 78. It should be 78. This is a quadratic equation. You can continue the calculations. The sum of the numerator and the denominator of a certain positive fraction is 11. So let's say the fraction is x over y. Well, that means x plus y is 11. We got an equation. If 1 is added to both numerator and the denominator, all right, so let's add 1 to the numerator and to the denominator, the fraction is increased. So it has the same value as previously, which was this, but we should add 3 over 56. Of course, from the first equation, you know that y is 11 minus x. So this is it. You get these values and substitute to the second equation. X plus 1 is y, that's 11 minus x plus 1 equals x over 11 minus x plus 3 over 56. Now this is a quadratic equation. You just work out like previously. The area of an isosceles right triangle is 81 meters squared. Find the perimeter of the triangle. All right, if it's an isosceles right angle triangle, that means these two sides are equal. Let's say this side is x and this side is x. So the area of a triangle, isosceles right angle triangle, means it's x times x over 2. That means it's x squared over 2. That means x squared over 2 would be 81. X squared is 2 times 81. X would be in general plus minus root, but because we're talking only for distance, it's going to be only the positive cases. So it's 9 root of 81 times root 2. We can find the hypotenuse. Let's say it's c. The c would be root 2 times x, as we know from Pythagorean theorem. And for the case of isosceles right angle triangle, that means it's 9 root 2 times root 2, which means it's 18. Because root 2 times root 2 is 2. Finally, we are looking for the perimeter. So the perimeter is going to be 2x plus c. For us, 2x is 2 times 9 root 2 plus c is 18. So 18 root 2 plus 18. The distance between two cities A and B is 140 kilometers. So there is a city A here, and then there is another city B here. The distance from here to here is 140 kilometers. All right, a car driving from A to B left at the same time as a car driving from B to A. So there are two cars, one moving this way, one car moving this way, and another car moving this way. The cars meet after 1 hour. So they, for example, they met somewhere here, the meeting point. So if we think like this, let's say the first car has a speed x kilometers per hour, the other one has y kilometers per hour. If they cover the whole distance in 1 hour, that means x plus y is 140 kilometers per hour, right? So if you added up the speeds from both sides. Now the cars met after 1 hour. Then the first car reached the city B 35 minutes later than the second car reached the city A. So the car A, so the car with the speed x, is a bit slower. That means the time it took the first car, let's say the time it took the first car A to reach was the same as the time it took the second car B plus 35 minutes, right? We cannot work in different units here, minutes and hours, so we have to convert everything into one unit. That means 35 minutes as hours is 35 over 60. So the time it took A is the time it took B here to reach the city over, we can simplify by 5 and it's 12, 7 over 12. All right, so knowing these relations, well, we can figure out what is the time it takes the car A to reach the end. Well, I can write somewhere here the time it took the first car A. It's gonna be from the formula V is distance over time. That means it's distance 140 over the speed. For us, the speed is x, and the time it took the second car B, it's 140 because it also covered 140 kilometers over its speed y. Well, take these values, input here. What do we get? 140 over x is 140 over y plus 7 over 12. We also know that y is 140 minus x from here. Let's continue. 140 over x is 140 over, well, 140 minus x from this part, and we get this should be plus 7 over 12. This is a quadratic equation. You add the right side and cross multiply it. It's easy to continue from here. An airplane traveled a distance of 400 kilometers at an average speed of x kilometers per hour. Write down the expression for the time taken. Well, velocity, as you know in physics, is the distance over time. We know the distance is 400, we know the speed, so the time would be, time is the distance over velocity. For us, it's going to be 400 over x. On the return journey, the speed increased by 40 kilometers. All right, so on the return journey, let's say this is the time it went outward and the time it returned. The distance, of course, remained the same, but the speed increased actually by 40. So that means it's x plus 40. Write down an expression for the time for the return journey. If the return journey took 30 minutes, now of course we cannot use minutes, we will use half hour. If the return journey took 30 minutes less, that means the time it took to return is the time it went outward minus 1 over 2. Then write an equation in x and solve it. We got an expression for the return journey. It's 400 over x plus 40. And the outward journey is 400 over x. All this minus 1 over 2. Just like previously, solve this equation and analyze the two cases, whether those make sense. A car drove from one city to another and returned by a different route. The outward route, so there is a city A, and here there is a city B. It goes from one route and it comes back. Let's change the color here. It comes back from a different route. So it goes this way maybe, and it comes back this way. So the outward journey was 48 kilometers long. And the return journey was 8 kilometers shorter. That makes it 40 kilometers. Now, the speed of the car on the return journey increased by 4 kilometers per hour. So if here the speed was x kilometers per hour, here on the return it was x plus 4 kilometers per hour. All right, so the return journey took 1 hour less. Let's say the time it took to return is the time it went outwards plus minus 1 because it took less. So minus 1 hour. Well, we can get some expression for the time it takes. In physics, you know, velocity is distance over time. That means time is distance over velocity. In our case, TR is the distance is 40 kilometers over the speed is x plus 4, and TO is the distance 48 kilometers and the speed is x. Get these values, substitute here. So 40 over x plus 4 is 48 over x minus 1. Quadratic equation. Check cases. A group of women plan to share equally in the 14,000 cost of a boat. At the last minute, 3 of the women decide to not pay. This raises the share. All right, so we have some women here that should share the cost. Well, how would they share it? Well, the number of women, let's say it's W, times the share. Let's call it SH. So the number of women times the share should be $14,000. Now, the last minute, 3 of the women decide to not pay, so they won't get on the boat. This raises the share for each remaining woman by $1,500. Well, the number of women decreased from W to W minus 3. That means the share increased from SH to SH plus 1,500. And of course, the cost for the boat remained the same. Now, this is a quadratic equation. You can, if just in case this SH confuses you, you can write S there. From the first equation, we know that W is actually let's write like this. SH is actually 14,000 over W. And let's use this substitution here. And what do we get? W minus 3 times SH is 14,000 over W plus 1,500. That should be 14,000. Well, this is W minus 3. And here you get a common denominator W, so 14,000 plus 1,500 W, that's 14,000. Multiply by W, you get W minus 3, that's 14,000 plus 1,500 W equals 14,000 W. The rest is multiply the left side, and this is practically a quadratic equation. So you can finish it. Multiply the left side and solve it as a quadratic equation. That would give you the number of women in the original group. So without these three women changing their minds. A car drove from a city A to a city B. The distance between the two cities A and B is 300 kilometers. So there is the city A and then there is the city B. The whole distance from A to B is 350 kilometers. After 200 kilometers, so from here after 200 kilometers, the speed of the car decreased. So we don't know what was the speed. So the distance was 200, but the velocity we don't know, it was x kilometers per hour. So after 200 kilometers, the speed decreased. Well, how many kilometers are left? 150 kilometers are left. At what speed? X minus 20 kilometer per hour. Now the total trip took 5 hours. Let's say T1 is the first part. Just like we did previously, the formula for the speed was V is D over T. That means T is D over V. That means the time till it changed the speed here was the distance, in our case 200, over the speed, that's x. And the time 2 was the second part of the journey, where it covered 150 kilometers, but at speed x minus 20. Great. So now the total trip took 5 hours. So T1 plus T2, that's 5. So 200 over x plus 150 over x minus 20, that is 5 hours. This is a quadratic equation of what we just solved previously. Two painters working together can paint the front of a house in 16 hours. One of the painters alone can finish the job in 24 hours less time than the other painter. So let's say the first painter paints it in X hours, the second painter paints it in Y hours. Let's say the first painter is the faster one, that means Y minus 24. All right, so in 1 hour, the first painter will paint 1 over X. The second painter will paint 1 over Y. And that will be painting 1 over 16th of the house. Great. So now here you can work in terms of x or in terms of y. If you want in terms of x, you need to write it as x plus 24, and you get 1 over x plus 1 over x plus 24. It's 1 over 16. This is just the same as the previous equations that we solved. You solve for x and again check whether it makes sense. A motorcyclist traveled at a constant speed of 60 kilometers per hour. So his speed velocity is 60 kilometers per hour. If he had gone 10 kilometers faster, let's say this is V1, if he would have gone with 10 kilometers faster, that means 70 kilometers per hour, he would have shortened his traveling time by 1 hour. Find the speed of the cyclist. Find the speed of the motorcyclist. Cut. Start. A motorcyclist traveled at a speed of a constant speed for 60 kilometers. So the distance, let's say from here to here, two places, let's label them A, B. The distance is 60 kilometers. At what speed? Well, we don't know, so the speed is x kilometers per hour. But the question is, if he'd gone 10 kilometers faster, so if he would have covered this distance the same distance, but not by x, but x plus 10 kilometers per hour, he would have shortened his travel time by 1 hour. All right, let's calculate it in both cases. So t from case 1 would be distance 60 over speed x. T from case 2, well, distance remains the same, but the speed changes by 10. Great. So now it says if he would have increased the speed, then T1, which was with speed x, with lower speed, would be 1 hour more than T2, or T2 is 1 hour less. Get this substitution. 60 over x is 60 over x plus 10 plus 1. A quadratic equation. Done. The area of a triangle is 36 meters squared. The length of the base, so there is a triangle here. Let's say this is the base A and this is the height upon that base. The length of the base is twice the height. Alright, so that means A is twice the height. Find the length of the base and the height of the triangle. Alright, so the area of a triangle is 1 over 2 times base times height upon that base. It's given that it's 36, so 1 over 2 times 2h times h. Cancel, cancel, that means h is 6. If h is 6, you get that a is 2 times 6, 12. A jeweler wishes to mix an alloy of 25% silver with another alloy of 40% silver. How much of each should he use to produce 60 kilograms of an alloy which is 30% silver? All right, let's say we are mixing x kilograms on the first and y kilograms from the second. Well, because the total weight should be 60, that means x plus y should be 60. And now let's just concentrate on the amount of silver, where the first alloy has 25% silver, plus the second alloy has 40% silver. Well, this sum should be giving us a 30% of 60 kilograms. Well, the rest is practically substituting here and simplifying. 1 over, we can multiply by 100, so you'll get 25x plus 40y, it's 1800, something like this. From here you get that y is 60 minus x. Get this substitution here and you can solve it. This one is actually a linear equation. 60 minus x is 1800. This is easy. One of two pipes can fill a pool in 24 hours faster than the other. Let's say the first pipe fills it in x hours, the second pipe fills it in y hours. Let's say x is the faster one, that means x is y minus 24. The slower pipe, which means y, filled the pool for 8 hours. So it worked for 8 hours. What does it mean? If the pipe, the slower one, y, can fill it in y hours, in 1 hour it will fill 1 over y of the pipe. So it worked for 8 hours. Then the other pipe was opened. The pipes filled together for 20 hours. So another 20 hours, the pipe X and the pipe Y worked together. So the pipe Y worked for another 20 hours, so 1 over Y times 20, and the slower pipe 1 over X, the faster one actually, worked for 20 hours, and this didn't fill the whole pool, it didn't finish the whole job, it filled only 2/3 of the work was done. So the rest is like 28 over y plus 20 over x is 2 over 3. From here we know that y is x plus 24. Get the substitution here, 28 over x plus 24 plus 20 over x, that's 2 over 3. And this is a quadratic equation. We'll solve it and check whether the cases make sense. A worker can clean a pool in 4 hours less time than it takes another worker. Again, let's say this is the faster worker, the slower one. That means x is the slower one minus 4 hours. If the men work together, the job takes 8 over 3 hours. Well, in 1 hour, the first worker would do 1 over x of the job. And if the second worker would do 1 over y of the job. And this will cover 1 over how long does it take for the job to be done? 8 over 3. Get the substitution of y equals x plus 4. That means 1 over x plus 1 over x plus 4. It's 3 over 8. That's it. This is a quadratic equation. The length of a rectangle is 2 meters more than its width. So there is a rectangle, it has length L, and it has width W. So the length is 2 times its width. And the area is 48 meters square. So the area of a rectangle is actually length times width. So length times width is 48. We know that length is 2 width, so 2 width times width is 48. Divide by 2, you get width squared. 2 width squared is 48. Width squared is 24. That means width is root of 24, which we can simplify into, it's 4 times 6, so 2 root 6. This is the width. Now find the length and the width. This was the width. From here you get the length is 2 times width, which is 2 times 2 root 6, 4 root 6. That was it. See you.